peanuts. I love peanuts. You can get them in the jar. Yummy. You can also get them in a bag from a restaurant, like my favorite. Also yummy. Or when you just can't get those, you go to the store and buy a bag. Shuck them yourself. It's a lot of fun. But today, we're throwing away the knives. Today, we're going to make homemade dry roasted peanuts. It's going to take a while, so be ready for a few days of waiting. But in the end, it's kind of cool. So let's get started. Our first and only ingredient is raw peanuts. I got 2 pounds, 2 packages. Now, you don't want blanched, you don't want dry roasted, you have to make sure that they're raw peanuts for this to work. Okay, it was a little difficult to find them, but we did, and that's pretty well our only ingredient. Oh, except for some salt. So into our pot, we're going to fill this all the way up and get that over to the stove because that's got to come up to a boil. We'll turn that on to high. We're going to throw in some salt. Now, every recipe I watched called for a cup of salt. I'm kind of running out of salt here. I didn't have quite enough. But I also watched and listened to some people that did this. And most of them said, there wasn't quite enough salt in it. Now, maybe they didn't soak it long enough. So instead of a cup, I put a cup and a half. Of course, like I said, I ran out of salt, so I had to go to the thing of sea salt I had. But I think that worked just fine. So there we go. Into the pot, we're going to bring that up to a boil. I'm just going to stir everything until all the salt is nice and dissolved. So there we go. It's up to a boil. Let's get it off the stove. Now here we go with our peanuts. There's one bag. And there's the second bag, and they sure aren't sinking in the water. And of course, why would you expect them to? So I'm going to try and push them down. Yeah, that doesn't really work because they pop right back up. And I was ready for this because everything I saw said you need something to hold them down. So I've already pre-looked for a bowl that fits in this pot. So once I'm done fooling around with these peanuts, I'm just trying to make sure the top ones are at least wet. And I've got a bowl. Of course, it doesn't quite push them down enough, so I tried it and, gee, go figure, it's hot. There we go. Actually try and implement to do it. It's a little hard, but that'll at least keep them close to the water. Now, the trick with this is you're going to want to, every hour or so, take them out and kind of mix them around. Put the lid back on. Now, right here, we've done this for close to 9 hours. So it's going to take an all day to get this done. You want them to soak for quite a while. And the water is still hot at this point, too. So we'll bring our peanuts over to the sink and we're going to rinse them out and watch this. Watch how much comes off them. It looks like they came right out of the field. I wasn't expecting that. So we give them a shake, let everything drain down the sink. Now, you want to rinse them out just a bit, not a ton. Just enough to kind of get, some of the remaining dirt off. It's not going to hurt the salting process. And since you're not going to eat the peanut shells, that will be fine. All right. We need a couple baking sheets, decent sized ones. Now, since I've never done this, I'm putting parchment paper down, and you need a baking rack. Now, I only have 2. I've got one like that I use for meat all the time. And I've got one that's smaller, and I think now that I've done it, I'd rather have 2 of the smaller ones. This kind of worked, but it was more difficult to work with. Now, half of our peanuts are going to go on this rack. And then we'll put it aside. So here's our second sheet. parchment paper rack, you can see that one's smaller, and the rest of our peanuts. Now the funny thing is, it's easier to move these around because we've got to dry them. So that's our next step. Onto my back porch, which is enclosed, I set up a box to set them on, and here's one tray of peanuts, and then the other one. Now keep in mind, this is like 9:30 at night. I started this at noon, so that's why it's a little dark back there. I'm trying to make sure that they're all kind of spread out even at this point, and I think it's fairly close. And what we're going to do is we're going to check them, we're going to let them dry. This is about after day 2. And you can feel the shells are damp. Not horribly, but they're not dry. And you want them to feel like a dry peanut before we do the roasting. Now, the tray on the right gave me the most problem. I was actually moving dry peanut shells over to the one on the left because I don't know why the one on the right just wouldn't dry. But here we are. This is 6 days later. So it could take anywhere from 4 to 6 days. Now we're going to set the oven to 350. Okay. Now we brought our peanuts in. And I don't know if you can see the difference. They look dry. I'm trying to mix the peanuts around. And then I'm putting the peanuts so they're even on the 2 racks. So into the oven they go, 350 for, well, I'm going to do 45 minutes, but we're going to kind of mix them around at the halfway mark. Now, I should tell you that half an hour is plenty, I think. Now we've let them cool for a bit. Well, I'm going to take one out and give it a try. Look at that. The shells are coming apart just right. It smells great, looks good. And just because I'm fussy, I'm going to take the paper off the peanut before I try it. Oh, it tastes so good. Yeah, we got a winner here. It's a lot of effort. Might cost a little extra too. And not much. You know, maybe $1 more than just buying them. But it's so much fun to do. I managed to get 4 packs. I'm kind of happy. There we are. How about that? Homemade roasted peanuts. You got to try it. Hey, another great recipe. I hope you'll give it a try. Leave me a comment below, one way or the other. Listen, if you haven't subscribed, hit the subscribe button and hit the bell because that'll tell you the next time I upload a video. Feel free to share this and any of my other videos. And thanks for stopping by and watching. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.